Good morning, everyone. We're about to go and get this kicked off because we have much better. I hate microphones, but media folks told me they need it for broadcast, so here we are. I appreciate everyone coming out. If you look around the room, we have a lot of city staff here. They're going to be able to help answer a lot of our questions, but look around, like you see our city manager, Jay Chapa, here. You see assistant city managers here. You see our chief of police here, our MPOs. We have a wealth of knowledge, and they're all here for you all. So thank you for showing up. Help us take the information back out to the community. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of great questions in here, great dialogue. Just to kind of level set, make sure everyone understands we are talking about the FY26 budget. So the bond meetings, once we flush more of that out, we will have separate meetings specifically for that. And so if any of your questions are bond specific, we will have those meetings here shortly. So if you haven't already, grab your breakfast burritos because we all know that's really why you're here. JJ's Tacos always shows up, they show out. It's certainly not for me or Jay or to talk all the numbers. So enjoy the breakfast. Feel free to take one or two back home to your family because I'm sure you may have left somebody back home holding down the fort. So we appreciate you coming out. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over. And I also want to say thank you to Michael Crane for coming out, council member for District 3. He's here to see how community meetings are actually done right. So let's show him how it's done. So over to our city manager, Jay Chapa.
Thank you, Councilman. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming out. I'm going to introduce this overall. We have a start off with a little video, kind of broadly covers the budget, and then we'll have a presentation. And Christiane Simmons, our head budget person, she runs the lab for the city. She will be going through all the presentation, and then we'll be available as you go through. If you have any questions, if you raise your hand, we can answer as we go through. Afterwards, feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like. And we'll be here to answer those. So with that, we'll kick it off with the video. And by the way, this is being streamed and recorded, so if you miss it or somebody wants to watch it, they can go on the city's website and watch it after the fact.
Fort Worth reflects smart, strategic growth, benefiting from a fast-growing economy, safe and clean neighborhoods, and a high quality of life for all residents. This year, we reached a historic milestone, 1 million residents strong. With that growth comes opportunity to invest wisely and plan sustainably for the future. For fiscal year 2026, the city is proposing a $3.09 billion budget, including a $1.1 billion general fund, focused on 5 city council priorities: community safety, infrastructure, community investment, economic development, and responsible growth. We are enhancing community safety by adding neighborhood police officers, providing full-year funding for our brand-new EMS service, and launching a new emergency management and communications department. And just as safety is essential, so is the infrastructure that keeps our city moving. We're prioritizing street maintenance and 2 major water treatment facility projects, while strengthening staffing to ensure crucial infrastructure projects are delivered on target. Our neighborhoods remain at the heart of our plan, supported by strengthening the priority repair and neighborhood improvement programs, expanding the mobile toolshed program to assist more homeowners, and adds resources to our animal shelters. By strengthening the places we live, we also lay the foundation for a thriving local economy. To boost economic growth, we're launching a small business development program and upgrading the Will Rogers Complex and Convention Center. We're delivering for today and planning for tomorrow. This is reflected by updating service fees for water, stormwater, solid waste, and environmental protection to improve flood mitigation and ensure sustainable operations. And through PAYGO funding, a small but powerful portion of your property tax, we're increasing investment in street and park maintenance. Over the past decade, Fort Worth has kept budget growth in check, thanks to consistent tax rate reductions. The proposed tax rate of 67 cents is a decrease from last year. The typical household with a homestead exemption will pay less in city taxes this year. Out of the 67-cent property tax rate, over 52 cents funds operations and maintenance, and 14 cents goes towards debt. We maintain a fiscally responsible strategy and a strong credit rating, enabling the city to fund upcoming bond programs. The City Council will review the budget throughout August, with a final vote on September 16th.
Charlie want to stand behind the table.
Oh. That, listening to all that, that you couldn't really hear what she was saying because of the.
Down, down, down. Yeah. Yeah. Say it, what again? Okay, the video guy says that it might have been mismeasured for today, like the cable might have been disconnected or something. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yes. That's okay. No, you're good. Okay, good morning. Hi, Christine Simmons, Chief Transformation Officer for the city. So my group is the Fort Worth Lab, like Jay mentioned. And among other things, we do the budget. So we develop and manage the budget all year long, and it really is all year long. After September 16th, we're gonna take a nap and then start again. So we love budget in our department, and I have a couple of staff members here today too. Thanks for being here this morning on a cool, chilly, I think it's chilly. I told my husband, it's sweater weather, and he's like, come on, it's not sweater weather yet. And I'm like, sort of. Okay, we have like 10 slides or 12. It's not very many, because our goal is really to get to Q&A and talk about what you'd like to talk about. So I'm going to give you a baseline of the budget, which will cover most of the things in the video that you maybe couldn't hear from the guitar, and then we can talk. So first of all, fiscal year 26 overarching budget themes. We always begin to develop the budget with some themes in mind, and most of these won't be a surprise to you either as engaged residents. So first thing is rapid growth of the city of Fort Worth, right? Rapid growth. We just hit 1 million residents as of July of 2024. 11th largest city, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like that, especially for people who've been here forever. It's kind of crazy to think about being a top, 11 city. And so trying to balance the complexity that brings with services and core sort of essential things the city should offer. Also this year, something that was a little different was the evolving property tax landscape. We always have property tax, modeling going on. This year it was a little extra mysterious or complicated because of the activities of the Tarrant Appraisal District. So they adopted a reappraisal plan, some of you may know this, where they were really only appraising residential property every other year in an attempt to provide some taxpayer relief. And so we just weren't sure, with property tax being our biggest source of revenue, what those values would look like with that plan. So we were running sort of a number of scenarios in the spring, trying to figure out how constrained we'd be. And then really looking at, of course, fiscal responsibility, which we always try to do, but particularly with our new city manager being not new to the city, but new in the seat, he really wanted to take a pretty surgical look at the department budgets. So we did a number of exercises cutting the budgets in the beginning. He asked departments to trim 1% across the board, really before the process even started. Which gave us a significant amount of savings right from the beginning. And then we actually had them do additional reduction exercises, again, wondering how constrained our revenues would be. We also looked at fee increases, which we do this annually. Sometimes fees go down, sometimes fees go up. More likely they go up, and they went up this year. There's a couple of drivers for why that happens, and we'll talk about which fees are changing this year. We also wanted to sustain our cash investment in infrastructure. So this comes from your property tax rate, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but we call it pay as you go for capital maintenance. We know that our capital maintenance isn't decreasing anytime soon, and so we wanted to ensure that we didn't reduce that portion of the property tax as we started thinking about the rate. And same Same goes for debt capacity or bond capacity. So when we talk about the 2026 bond and really, into the future for bond and debt planning, we also didn't want to reduce the portion of the property tax rate that has to do with bond capacity, the debt service part of the rate, wanting to maintain that capacity into the future. So all that to say, those are some of the things we were thinking about. So we began, prepping council and working internally in April. Budget increases this isn't a year where we're like adding a bunch of new positions or anything like that. Even though our revenues weren't quite so constrained, which we'll show you what those look like in a minute, it's still not like a hugely high growth year. But we were able to sustain high service levels for police and fire, particularly with the addition of EMS. And so fiscal year 26, as you are probably aware, will be the first full year of funding for the newly acquired EMS function in the city. We started that in July, so we had 1 quarter in fiscal year 25 where we were beginning to pay for that and see what that activity looks like. Fiscal year 26 is the first full budget year for that. So that ate up a lot of sort of the growth right away, and I'll show you that shortly. Pay as you go, we talked about cash funded capital. We wanted to continue to increase that for street maintenance. Street maintenance, I'm sure you're the same. We hear this all over the city as sort of the #1 resident concern, and so we certainly wanted to continue to increase our capacity to do street maintenance. We also gave some extra to parks for park maintenance too. And then we also looked at community investment in our neighborhoods, and so we continued the neighborhood improvement program. We also did a couple of things in code and animal services that we'll talk about. And then there are some employee investments, so we maintained the pay for performance program. The city doesn't do across the board raises or like COLA market raises, we do performance raises. And so we continue to do that in this budget. So City Council actually has adopted strategic priorities. These are new as of last year. Before that, the council didn't have really officially adopted strategic priorities. And so they're set to revisit these every couple of years. But as we create the budget, we want to make sure that we're really tying resources to these outcomes and these priorities. So the first of those, and really in no particular order, but most people kind of think this is one of the first two, at least, community safety. We talked a little bit about this stuff. Full year of funding for EMS. That's a big milestone for community safety this year. We also established a new department for emergency management and emergency communications. So that's like emergencies that occur and also like 911. So it consolidates resources from police and fire and even adds a few resources to really hone in on that function. And then on the police side, and I remember last year in this district, we talked a lot about police presence and resources. We did add NPOs in this budget. Those are funded out of CCPD. The police department did a beat study, kind of balancing all the beats across the district because they hadn't done one in a long time. And they added 12 new beats, and so we added NPOs accordingly to cover those beats. And then the school district, Fort Worth ISD, also asked for some additional SROs. And we split those 50-50 with the school district, so we did add those according to their request. Okay, and then the other sort of top priority that we hear a lot about is infrastructure. So again, this budget prioritizes street maintenance, first through adding more money for it in the pay-go side of the budget, and also for thinking about planning for a street maintenance fee. I can't remember how much we talked about that in this district last year. There were a number of council conversations going on last year at this time about whether we should do a street maintenance fee. We'd like to continue to study that, so this budget will allow us to do that. This budget also adds personnel for more efficient delivery of capital projects. So right now the city uses a number of consultants for inspecting and engineering and some other capital project delivery functions. We think we can do that more efficiently in-house and less expensive. And so we have added some personnel to do that. That's not in the general fund, but just another add. And then there are a number of big water projects this year that you'll see water's budget has some growth. Water's a regional utility. They have some big capital outlay coming that's been on the schedule for a while, but Eagle Mountain Water Treatment Plant is expanding, and then we're looking at the Marys Creek Water Reclamation Facility project as well in fiscal year 26. Okay, community investment. We have expanded the priority repair program that's for housing. So we increased this budget by about 25%. I think we added $500,000. It's a $2 million program right now. This is aimed typically at seniors that maybe can't afford like big home repairs that they that would kind of, it allows them to maintain like being in their home when they can't necessarily take on a big repair. And that's a popular program. We sometimes have backlog there, so we're trying to continue the investment there. Also, I mentioned the code side, and lots of people are always interested in code, and Brian's here. I'm just going to go ahead and tell y'all, Brian's here, the director of code. He's ready for your questions. We've expanded. They did a cool pilot in fiscal year 2025, current year, about a mobile tool shed program. This is a program that Brian, our new director, actually did in Arlington that he kind of pitched in the city of Fort Worth, and we started it in a couple of neighborhoods. This will allow, the point is to reduce code violations that are based on like lack of equipment or tools. And so they'll come with their tool shed and give you a lawnmower or a weed eater or whatever, and then take it away. And so it allows you to sort of check those things out, which is a cool thing. We've had a lot of demand for that, and so we've made it a more permanent program next year. We're continuing the neighborhood improvement program. And then we have a new library opening in the far northwest next budget year. But at the end of this budget year, we have to staff it, kind of get those librarians and staff trained in the new building. So this budget also does that. I think I skipped animal services. We added some temporary, some contractual labor for the animal shelters. They have a lot of turnover, like for kennel technicians and some of those jobs that deal with animals, difficult jobs. And so they need contracted labor to kind of fill in those gaps as vacancies occur, and that way those services can continue. Another priority of the City Council, of course, in the city is economic development, and so this budget does a couple of things for that too, aside from just continuing our investments in the economic development department and staff. So the first is that we're expanding our partnership with the local chambers. That's the Black, Hispanic, and like downtown Fort Worth Chamber. For small business development. You may have heard some of this over the last couple of months as we've talked about it at the council level. We're also funding a refresh of the Economic Development Strategic Plan. It's been a while since we did that. We have a new director starting, so we think it's a good time to kind of take a look at our strategy. And then there are big investments in this budget year for Will Rogers and the Convention Center. And I think, I know a lot of people are excited about particularly the Convention Center expansion, and it's time to do that. And then responsible growth is the last priority, and this is kind of they're all broad, but this is like a really broad category. We kind of use it as a catch-all category. So we've highlighted a couple things here. We're going to continue the 2050 comprehensive plan, so that's like envision Fort Worth in 2050. Some of you as engaged folks may have been involved in the first phases of comp plan planning. We'll continue those in the fall. And in October, you'll get to do comp plan and bond sort of together for public engagement. So I think those will be really interesting. We're also adding funding to replace vehicles and equipment. As our fleet grows and ages, we need to catch up with the backlog of equipment. And so we're doing that a little bit in the budget. We're trying to take a small bite out of that. Some of you may also know that City Council approved a pay study for the city employees. So not civil service, but kind of almost everybody else. So there's, I can't remember, like multiple hundreds of jobs being looked at by an outside group to make sure that our pay is in line with the market and other cities. That's midway right now. We expect to start to see results for that in April or May. And so this budget has not nearly what it might cost to actually implement the findings, but it does have a bucket for beginning to maybe implement some of the lower hanging fruit from that study. And then you'll see some fee structures being adjusted for capital planning and sustainability of a couple of different funds. So water did some tier rate adjusting. So the average resident based on usage won't see a change in the water portion of their rate. There is a change on the wastewater portion of the rate, and you'll see that in a moment. And then environmental protection and solid waste both have a fee increase and stormwater as well as part of their kind of capital plan. And I'll show you in a little bit the average kind of bill and how that stacks up. Okay, so property tax. Exciting times for property tax. Again, we didn't exactly know what was going to happen with the appraisal districts. We have 4 appraisal districts: Tarrant and Parker and Wise and Denton. Tarrant is by far our largest, like 95%. And so we were really watching the TAD values closely. We get estimates, and then we finally get the certified values at the end of July, and we have like a week or 2 to balance our budget. So we tried to do a lot of good planning and modeling from the beginning. In the current year, fiscal year 25, our tax rate and revenue is based on the values you see at the top of this chart, $121.9 billion. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the little percentage signs of what the values grew. So change in taxable value, 3.4%. That's existing value. So that's what we expected. We weren't really sure. We thought it would be more flat than that because of TAD's reappraisal plan, but we did still see good growth, 3%. We've seen like way bigger growth than that in the past, but we can only capture 3.5% of it anyway. So 3.4% on the existing value side. And then in new construction, 2.5%, this was a good number for us. And so overall, we had 5.9% growth in value. So led to a taxable value of $129 billion for fiscal year 26. So the video mentioned, if you could hear it, that the recommended tax rate is 67 cents. This is a quarter-cent decrease from the current fiscal year. So our current fiscal year tax rate is 67.25. So this is quarter cent. A penny is about $11 million, if that helps. So that's kind of the revenue impact. And on the right-hand side, I know it's a little small, but this is how the 67 cents breaks down. And so the top little branch is the O&M, operations and maintenance portion of the tax rate, 52.25 cents. That goes to fund the general fund, pretty much, as the biggest operating fund. But in the city of Fort Worth, we break that rate out a little bit further. So the operations rate at 45 cents, that's really what funds the general fund. Operating, like police, fire, parks, transportation, those kind of core services you think of as like general fund services. And then the little bottom branch from the O&M rate is the pay-go rate. So that's 7.25 cents. And that's that pay-as-you-go capital, cash-funded capital, so that we're not doing like street maintenance and park maintenance by like issuing debt. So this is just cash for capital. And we didn't want to touch that. We didn't want to reduce it for sure. And then the bottom portion is the debt rate. And again, we also didn't want to reduce that because that would reduce our future bond capacity. Okay, I really am almost done. I have like 5 more maybe. So total operating budget is just under $3.1 billion. That's not just the general fund, but the general fund is the biggest portion of that. In the top row, you'll see the general fund's growth is about 4.5%. Below that, you see me falling at the front of the room. Below that, you see other groups of funds, some of which are more interested than others, I think. And so we'll go through special revenue and enterprise just briefly after the general fund. The city also has internal service funds, which is where departments charge one another for their work. That's things like HR risk and fleet, for example. But the general fund, certainly the biggest portion of the operating budget. So that $1.1 billion, this is how it breaks out. Revenues on top, expenditures on the bottom. So our biggest sources of revenue in the general fund, again, are property tax, followed by sales tax. Those two together make up like 80%. So we watch those obviously very closely. We've talked a bit about property tax. Sales tax, we're expecting about 4% growth. We had like double-digit sales tax growth lots of times over the last 10 years. We're not really in that time anymore. And so we try to be really conservative but realistic about what we are budgeting for sales tax collections. We watch that, monthly all year long. And then on the expense side, this is at the account level. This might not be as interesting to you, except to say salary and benefits make up a large portion of the general fund. And we'll look now at how those break out. So 4.5% growth in the general fund equates to about $48 million. This is the way that some of that $48 million is accounted for. And most of these are contractual obligations. So on the public safety side, about almost 70% of that $48 million is contractually obligated through police and fire salary bargaining. So with the Police Officers Association and the collective bargaining that happens with the fire department, they have a schedule of pay raises that occur every year. And so you'll see those equated to about 15 million of that $48 million growth. 20 million is the subsidy to EMS. So EMS is set up as a special revenue fund. It's not in the general fund. It's not an enterprise fund, which is a fund that can totally pay for itself through charges for service because there's a gap. The revenues don't quite cover the expenditures in EMS, as you can imagine with medical billing and a lot of those complications. I think our goal would be that we do get that to a more sustainable place, but in year one, we're not there. And so the general fund is subsidizing that operation. So that's the 20 million that you see. That 20 million goes out of the general fund over to the EMS fund. A couple of workforce things. 12 million, we have, I mentioned pay for performance. That's a 0 to 6 or 7% scale that typically averages 3-4% for employees. That's the raise mechanism that employees have in the city. And it's tied to performance goals and happens once a year. And then the pay study implementation, we talked about kind of maybe seeing some results from that in April or May and beginning to try to implement some of those that are most important to city management and city council. And then $4.6 million more in pay-go. As the values grow, we have to reconcile the amount that gets us to that 7.25% part of the tax rate. And so you'll see capital funding too. So if you do quick math, that's actually more than 48 million, which tells you we also did a bunch of budget cuts through that 1% and 3% exercise. Okay, so that's general fund. Quick look at the enterprise funds. The biggest is water. You'll see that at the bottom of the chart, water and wastewater. Again, water is a regional utility. They have a lot of capital need, and so their fund is growing. They have a number of contractual services, even like buying water and chemicals and stuff that cause some of that growth. Solid waste, the second biggest. I know we talk about solid waste a lot up here too, and happy to do that today as well. They are doing a fee increase for the first time in 25 years or something. 25, 30, 20, yeah. And so you'll see that in a moment. And then stormwater is the other one that you'll see on the water bill in a few. The other two, municipal parking, municipal airports, like on an average basis, typically a resident doesn't interact as much with those, but we run those 3 airports, and then we have a number of parking structures and spaces downtown mostly. Special revenue, most of you, I think probably all of you are familiar with CCPD. That's our biggest special revenue fund. And again, this is one where the revenue is dedicated to this purpose, but it doesn't necessarily cover the cost of service. But you still have to adopt a balanced budget, of course. So CCPD, we're adding NPOs and SROs. We talked a little bit about that, but they're growing very modestly, knowing that, if you see their 2.6% growth, it's not quite as high as it's been in previous years. They're tied to sales tax. They're funded by a 0.5-cent sales tax that voters elect to pay for crime control and prevention district purposes. Police is the primary administrator of CCPD, but there are a couple of other departments who sometimes have a crime control and prevention nexus where they can take advantage of a little bit of CCPD funding. And the board of directors for CCPD is the city council. And then public events, that's actually a lot of funds rolled up that are administered by culture and tourism, pretty much funded by hotel occupancy tax, as well as some revenue sharing arrangements that we have. And they have a lot of capital projects this year, which you'll see on the CIP, including Will Rogers and the Convention Center, which we talked about. And then you see EMS with no history there in the first column, but their new budget there in the second column, 89 million, and again, 20 million of that coming over from the general fund. So that means they're covering the other 69 as far as revenues and expenditures, how they balance out. This is what you might be particularly interested in. So this is average taxpayer impact for fiscal year 26. So in the top line, we show the average taxable home value. This is a value that is blended across the 4 appraisal districts, and it already takes into consideration a homestead exemption. So if it looks low to you, that might be why, because it would have a homestead exemption applied. So based on the 1/4 cent reduction in the property tax rate, you would see a decrease on your property tax bill from the city's portion of about $20 a year. And then the fees that you pay on the water bill are then stacked below, and that's about a $57 a year increase, primarily solid waste at about $3 a month. Again, really planning for long-term sustainability of solid waste. We pay, waste management to handle our solid waste, so that contract increases. And then we're thinking about the landfill reaching end of life in like 10 years or less, and thinking about what that long-term capital sustainability looks like. Environmental fee has a 75-cent a month increase. We trimmed that one back. It was originally a little more. We're really looking at that fund and the services it provides with air quality and Upspire, like homeless camp cleanup. I know we talk about that here too. And so this environmental fee will allow us to do additional Upspire cleaning crews, which we feel is a really great service that is popular and has really tangible results. And then water and wastewater, again, no monthly increase on the water charges for the average usage, but a 64-cent a month increase on wastewater. That's again due to the tier rate redesign. What did I miss? Stormwater. Stormwater, 35 cents a month. So when we designed the tax rate, we thought about balancing, right, the needs that we hear from across the city, which really differ from district to district, and then long-term sustainability and capital needs of the different services that are really fee-based, right, in the enterprise funds. And so that's why you get this offset of lower property tax rate when we knew we had to increase fees across a couple of different services. Every year when we do the operating budget, we also do the capital budget, and this is what that looks like. It's a 5-year rolling plan. And so for fiscal year 26, it's high. It's about $1.4 billion. That's primarily due to public events. So you'll see, and if you look at public events, that's Will Rogers and the convention center expansion. And then you see they kind of level out in future years, but this is their big bump for fiscal year 26. And then we talked about some of Water's bigger projects as well. This doesn't yet include the 2026 bond. So like next year when we do the budget, the bond numbers will flow through into future years. But right now, about almost a $4 billion capital plan for the next 5 years. This is a little small, so I'll walk you through this one. This is pay-go, 7.25 cents on the tax rate. The point of this chart is to show in the dark bar, the dark blue, that's 2025. Green is 2026. And so you'll see the top row is transportation and public works. That's their growth for streets. So you can see we kind of funneled all the extra to streets. And then parks grew, instead of growing with the normal rate, they grew by just slightly more. They grew by like 4% instead of 3.5%. The rest of the pay-go stayed the same at 3.5% growth for property management, neighborhood services. IT has a portion of this, and then there's a tiny bit that goes to community partnerships as well. So when all is said and done, this is 25 to 26 comparison. Operating budget just under $3.1 billion. Capital budget $1.4 billion for a total of about $4.5 billion. Fiscal year 26 recommended budget, and we're here for your feedback and questions on that. We have a number of meetings. We have another one today at 2 o'clock if you really want to come. In District 11, if you want to hear it all again, we'll try to fix the video sound by then. You can hear it for the first time. And then we have a couple more through the week. Those are all available online. These are also streamed if you want to go back and look at something afterward. I think they're cataloged and we could send that. But we try to, engage. We're looking at, fiscal year 27 budget development. What can we do to engage earlier along the way? And so we have some ideas for that, but we're really appreciative of your time today. And this is all leading up to adoption on September 16th. Wow, I was going to say my birthday, September 21st. September 16th is when we do the budget adoption and the tax rate adoption. Those come with public hearings, and then the council takes action on the budget, the tax rate, also the fee ordinance at the same time. They all kind of go together, and so that's what we're working toward over the next 10 days or so. And with that, we're ready for questions, and Jay's going to come back up for your questions, I bet. But I'm going to get a drink of water. But thank you for your attention. Thanks for getting through the budget slog on a Saturday morning.
Well, thank you all. And I want to congratulate all of you all and the council member, because this is the biggest turnout we've had for a budget meeting. Well, we're happy to take any questions. We have mics, I believe. Yes. Our water director's here.
Oh, okay.
That one was easy.
All right, that's fine.
We'll create a line with Chris there.
Sorry, you have to use this over the live stream.
It seems like residents are most concerned about the infrastructure, especially the roads. And I wrote this down so I don't forget anything, and public safety, which is really what the city government is tasked with. In light of that, can you tell me how many nonprofits the city of Fort Worth funds through local or federal tax dollars that you get? And I already know that some of the CCPD funds go to the nonprofits, and the Homeless Solution supports a lot of nonprofits. And you have a nonprofit set up for tourism in Fort Worth. I forgot the name of it.
Visit Fort Worth?
Yes. And then on top of that, we also partner with YMCA for a few of the recreational centers, in Fort Worth. So I wanted to know if we know what the dollar amount, and these are just the ones that I know of, there may be more. What's the dollar amount that Fort Worth spends on nonprofits? And the reason I ask is because when I pay taxes, I prefer to support nonprofits that I want to support and not have the city decide who my money is going to as far as nonprofits go.
So I don't know the exact number overall, but you're right. There's several different nonprofits that the city provides funds for. So a portion of the CCPD funds, we have a program, CCPD has a program where nonprofits that are doing work that help prevent or lower crime, they can apply, and that is capped at, they can't go over 10%. It's a little less than 10% of the CCPD funds overall, so I think it's about 11 million for 2026. The overall fund's about 140 million, so it's about 11 million of that 140 is going to those nonprofits, and there's a variety. We can get you the details. There's you mentioned the Y. We have some partnerships through the Parks Department, for
One's
instance.
here.
What's that?
One is here.
Right.
Yes.
The Y here. There's one a Y down in Southeast Fort Worth and in East Fort Worth, I believe, that also get funds, a partnership with the Parks Department. On the federal side, there's several programs that can only be done by nonprofits. The programs come through the city and then end up going for specific items in the community that are done by nonprofit with the federal funds. But we can get you a full listing of all that and what the total is.
For example, the ARPA funds that came when COVID was here, a lot of those funds went to the homeless for permanent supportive housing and that sort of thing.
Right.
So I know that with the ARPA funds, you had a wide range of things that you could give it to. And I don't know where all of it went, but I know where some of it went. My point is that there's a lot of, even the federal dollars, those are our tax dollars too.
Right.
And going to nonprofits. Do you happen to know of any of the names of the nonprofits for CCPD that you're using?
The chief can probably tell you a few of them. You mentioned Visit Fort Worth. So Visit Fort Worth is a nonprofit, but it's basically the city's Convention and Tourism Bureau. That's what it used to be called. And then across the country, all of those tourism bureaus change their names to Visit whatever the name of the city. So there's like Visit Miami, Visit New York, Visit Fort Worth. They're completely funded with hotel occupancy taxes. State law has restrictions on what we can use those funds for. We can't use those for streets. They can only be used for tourism-related programs to boost tourism. So the idea, and it's paid by people that stay in the hotels, people that rent cars. So it's visitors that are paying completely for that, and that can only be used to expand tourism overall.
Does the city of Fort Worth have any oversee over that
Yes.
nonprofit?
Yeah, we have a contract with them, an
Okay.
annual contract.
Because there's some things that they have funded that I don't agree with too. So
I think
but a lot of people don't know that is a nonprofit. They don't know that.
I think there's probably something in the budget across all over that different people in this room disagree with, but agree with, right? And so
But I know
that's
that
why-
I can go to Fort Worth now and say, hey, I don't want money that Fort Worth can control spent on whatever it is.
Right, and they have their own board, so you can also go to their
Okay.
board as well. Chief, you want to?
I have a question now.
So first of all, thank you for being here. You guys know what the weather is outside. We haven't seen this in quite some time, but yeah, you chose to be here. So Beverly, you asked a really good question. So have you heard of VIP Fort Worth?
Say that again.
VIP Fort Worth?
No.
And so that is a nonprofit that we partner with, and they deal with gangs and youth gangs, and they try and prevent youth from getting shot and preventing that retaliatory gang violence from moving forward. We also partner with Academy 4 and a multitude of after-school programs. And so for us, it's really important for us to be in the school with the kids, right? Because if we're going to change that mindset, because we're not going to arrest our way out of any of these problems. However, if we can change some of the direction of some of those kids, that's where a lot of those fundings are going to, is a lot of those after-school programs. And so really, it's some of them also have, you know, a job component to it for some people that have been incarcerated and reacclimating back into the society. And so, I mean, we can get you a laundry list of everything that we fund, because we fund, you know, quite a bit. $11 million is a lot of money. But a lot of it, honestly, has to do with our youth and our youth in the community. And it impacts up here. It impacts the entire city. And so I understand your concern, but, you know, we have an overseer of that fund. We have a CCPD board. We have other mechanisms in place that we make sure that the way we're spending the money is we believe is the most efficient and the best use, not only for the community, but for public safety.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I'm still saying it's my tax dollars.
I agree with you.
And I probably do not, I may pick a different organization to do those things, and I would rather give to them directly and anybody else, rather than having the city say who those nonprofits are, because I may not agree with some of the things that they do, or I may not agree that they're as effective as another organization
Sure.
could be at it.
But I'll also say is that we don't go out and pick them, right? We ask them to come and make applications to us for funding. And so it's not like we're out there cherry picking who we want to
But you
deliver these
choose
services.
from that
Well, there's a criteria, and they have to meet a certain threshold, a certain criteria. And we don't approve every application that comes through.
because there's so many nonprofits.
Well, there's a lot, and they just don't meet
there's a lot.
the threshold of that, you know, criminal component where we're trying to reduce crime.
Right. And a lot of people, when they vote on the CCPD fund, a lot of the people assume that it goes directly to the police department or policing for their cars, for the MPOs, and for all that. They don't, a lot of people, when they vote on it, don't know that it goes to nonprofits. So that's.
But it's a very small percentage that does.
11 million is still a lot of dollars.
But in the whole vest of it, it's about 9% of the CCPD.
And I would rather that go to direct policing rather than those programs.
And the vast majority does. And so, you know, for CCPD, we don't want to have our ongoing obligations, i.e. positions, kind of get beyond 50%, because we don't know what the sales tax revenues are going to go every year. And so if we do that, we're going to price ourselves out of CCPD, and we're going to have to start cutting things that we have already. And so we have about 50% that are personnel that we consider ongoing obligations that we have every year. So it's MPOs, it's SROs, it's CIT, it's the HOPE team. I mean, I can go on and on. But some of the other things that you talked about, yeah, our vehicles are in there, recruiting, and our academy, you know, whenever we put on police academies, that's in there as well. And so there's a lot of other costs that the majority of CCPD, the vast majority, goes to policing.
I realize that. I just want that 11 million to go
I get it. Okay.
somewhere else.
I understand.
If there's ever going to be a senior, a rec center that is actually a senior citizen, because the Y is just what that is. It's the Y. It does have programs for seniors, but go look at North Richland Hills. Yeah, go to Keller. I actually go work out at Keller, and don't live there. My money's going to another city, and it's going two other cities. It's going to North Richmond Hills and it's going to simply because I can't even afford the Y for one thing, and they don't meet my needs as a senior citizen.
Yep. So I am not a senior, but I 1,000% agree with you with that. So, and I will be. So, of course, I want to try to like set things up now so I can take advantage of it. I used to take my son over to the Saginaw Rec Center because his mom lived on that side of town. So we'd go over there. And so 100% agree. What I've found, I think 97% of issues that we seem to have, whether it's city level, state, federal, you name it, comes down to communication. And I think a lot of things that happen with the Y, which we will be discussing in much, like that's probably going to be 95% of our bond meeting is going to be the Y, what's going on there, working with David Lewis on pricing structures out there and learning things like that particular location is not subsidized by general funds. Every rec center is actually losing funds. And so that one, it's well, paying for itself in a sense as far as the memberships. So there's ways we can actually get that subsidized. There's not a good communication from the Y there on how they do the sliding scale for memberships. So somebody could actually go in there and apply and they could actually get a free membership if they truly cannot afford one because they don't want to turn anybody away. There's other insurance programs that'll actually pay for memberships. Again, it's not communicated. And so I think what we need, and same thing with the pool. Any resident can go to the YMCA and use the pool at the same day rate that any of the city pools are. They don't have to have a YMCA membership. Again, that's not communicated. And so sitting down with Mike Brown, the YMCA, and then talking to Dave Lewis, one of the things we're going to start working on is how do we communicate what it is, what it's not, and then why it was never expanded in the first place. That was years in the past. It was never supposed to, what it is now, that was not what it was meant to stay at. It was meant to be expanded and be a proper community center with a proper multi-use gymnasium for community fairs, senior events. So the new vision for what this is going to look like, it's going to have the meeting areas and meeting rooms and areas that's going to be only for over 65 and over for certain hours. And then, nights and weekends, it's going to open up to teens for teen nights to help keep them off the streets. And so, because that's extremely important to me, is that they actually have somewhere. Recently, we purchased some property next to a church, and I even went to Parks and said, hey, why don't we build a community center for senior citizens only? Unfortunately, because everything now is so expensive, it's so cost prohibitive for that. And so if there's any way we can leverage those funds where it's a dollar for dollar match with Y, as long as they have the program that we want and that we need. And that's why I'm looking forward to it. And I know I'm going to wear my vest. I might have to go to PD and borrow one of their vests for it because I know there's going to be a lot of arrows thrown at that bond meeting. But I think I'm going to have Y there so they can also answer and they can see this is what the community wants. This is what they need. And I don't want anybody in District 4 having to drive halfway across the city to go to another community center when we can, and we should have one right here. And so now if we completely say no to that and we say, all right, well, let's wait till the 2062 bond, that obviously does none of us any good. And so that right now that we got public safety, we're doing great strides there. EMS, just to kind of touch on that a little bit, just so you understand what we're talking about there. Soon you'll see all the fire trucks. The ambulances that say Fort Worth Fire. It's because we brought them in. A lot of people didn't really understand why. Well, a lot of areas like North Fort Worth, we were seeing much, much longer response times of no fault to the first responders. It was just a system issue. And of course, insurance issues and you name it. So bringing them under fire, that's going to come at a hefty price. But if you have someone who needs help, well, we're going to get them care in 9 minutes versus 18 minutes. And so now that has happened, that was one of my main priorities. Now my next priority is that community center, making sure it's actually, and there will be a name change. I can't say anything about it now, but I guarantee you it's going to be one that'll certainly make the community happy because, again, it has to be a proper community center, not just a gym and swim. And that is exactly what we're going to do with that facility. So, yep. And Dave Lewis, our parks director, he is absolutely phenomenal. Our entire staff is. I can't say enough good things about our staff and what they're doing on a daily basis. They live here, they work here, they have families here. They want to see the same things. But everything does come down to we have to pay for it. So.
It's not real big, but if you go over there and just look at their center, they do Meals on Wheels. They have skateboard for the kids, little skateboard park, but they have a workout center.
Which one are you referring to?
Keller. Oh, Watauga,
Okay,
yeah.
Watauga.
And it's a little small place. It's not
Yeah, same thing with the Bedford Y. And I mean, there's a great, so the programming, again, we're going to have a meeting specifically for that. But I'll go down kicking and screaming over it, but I can almost guarantee it'll be exactly what we want and what we actually need, because first, public safety, and then now that we got that, what I feel is under control, now that's the next priority, absolutely. So, sir?
Yes.
It's ridiculous. They're more expensive than a commercial gym.
So just briefly go into it. It's city owned, but it's Y managed, and there's a 50-year agreement. And again, that one, because it's not subsidized, those rates are higher. So we're going to be working on that. And then two, whenever you compare, memberships at, like, let's say Betsy Price, which is considered gold level. So if you wanted to use the gym at Betsy Price, it would be the higher cost. It's not like the $4 a month. So that's where it comes down to the lack of communication as well. Absolutely. Well, that's because they're also losing a lot more money because it's subsidized by general fund and by parks funds. And so already talking to David Lewis about that, like, well, hey, why can't we get some of that love over here too? Because if you and I are going to pay taxes, then why can't we get some of that love? So that's what we're going to be working on as well. Right, exactly. And that's what we're going to work through.
And then, like, over at the North Richland Hills, they have, their rec center, their senior center, then their library, everything's right there. But then some of the programs they have, like, when I first started over there, I couldn't really do anything, had back issues. They had a program where for $10, I could go to the pool 30 times. It was a month. But I could go 30 times from a certain time to a certain time, and that was just for us.
And that's
seniors.
part
And they
of
had
the programming that we're going to try to incorporate over there, because we're going to build that natatorium. And I don't think you're going to want to go to the splash pad anytime soon, because it's as much fun as I would have there, it's like it's not going to happen. So again, making that part of the proper programming with the natatorium for senior swim, senior classes, you name it. It's like that is absolute part. So.
North Richland Hills.
So they have
You can
lunches.
have lunches there. At North Richland Hills, they have lunches.
Yeah. So, and I'm not sure what the timing is. Was it October timeframe or not?
Yeah.
October. So October, we're going to start looking at those bond meetings. And since that's primarily what District 4 is,
Is your
so,
focus on this?
and we'll have Y there as well, and they'll be strapped up and invested in. And so we will answer all those questions. So,
Okay, Chief, I got a question for you. I saw in the budget we had to hire people to work at the animal shelter. No, this has to do with you. Why are we not allowed to use some of those people in your jails to rehabilitate them to work at the shelters, walk the dogs, clean the kennels? I mean, why are these things not being used?
So the money that was added on the animal shelters is actually to hire folks that are coming out of homelessness to do exactly that.
Good.
So that's what those funds are going for.
Okay.
When she mentioned Upspire is a program that the former homeless folks or people coming out of homelessness that go, we use them to clean up camps and those kind of things. It's a similar program, and it's funds to help those folks come out and do the kind of work that's hard to get folks to work 40 hours a week, and all they do is clean out kennels, right? It's a tough job. Yeah, all of that. That's what that additional dollars is for. Yes, sir.
Yes. Fort Worth competes with a lot of cities in the Metroplex for big business and small business. And yet the tax rate over in McKinney, Frisco, Plano is about 0.41. They could raise their rates 50% and still be less than Fort Worth. So I have 3 specific suggestions in trying to make our city more competitive without giving abatements to big business. Number 1, we got that increase in revenue by more new construction and new assessment. I'd like to see a higher percentage going to a tax reduction, not only helping small business, the barber, or the hair salon or the plumber, but helping affordable housing. So a bigger percentage there. Number two, I'd like to see a limit on some of the compensation. I like first responders, whether they're out at Carswell, the police, or EMT. It's my understanding that some in the fire department are getting more than a congressman of $174,000. So I'd like to see a limit to benefit the many, not the few. And number three is the CPI from the BLS for this year shows closer to a 1.9 this calendar year, not a 3 or 4% change. So I'd like to have the evaluation of the current CPI over the last 6 months evaluated to what the pay increases are for the city. And thank you for having this meeting.
Sure, thank you.
Can I mention something on the CPI, or is it not working?
I think it's good.
EJ? Okay. I'm coming. I'm the mic lady.
Okay, I noticed on there that you mentioned about paying more for homeless cleanups and everything. Well, every single time it seems like we're paying more for homeless cleanups and increasing the HOPE team to take care of the homeless problem instead of solving the homeless problem. It's growing and the problem's growing bigger and we're having to pay more and more money. So maybe work on different solutions for the homeless problem.
If you have any ideas on how to solve the homeless problem,
I have a lot of ideas.
We have a lot of folks that spend a lot of time trying to figure out how we should do that.
I have lots of ideas. And the other thing is I watched the city council work sessions, and the one I watched that dealt with the budget, it was talked about the lower tax rate that you guys are saying. And in that budget session, they said, don't worry though, it will even out because we're raising fees. So when the word goes out that you're lowering taxes, oh, the tax rate dropped, it's disingenuous because you're also raising the fees, and people may not hear that.
That's one of the reasons we knew. So I'll give you some examples, right? Part of my job of staff, is to ensure that the city is sustainable with its programs and its services for long term. In about 10 or 11 years, we're going to run out of space in our landfill. A new landfill is $200 million or more. It takes 20 years, 15 years to go through all the environmental requirements to get something sited. We have not had a change in the wastewater rate since 2002.
I'm not saying that the fees shouldn't be raised. They need to be raised because I know all that.
But the reason, one of the reasons to lower the tax rate is if you're a homeowner and you have a homestead exemption, TAD did not reappraise your property. So your property values stayed the same, right? So if we lower the tax rate, your actual payments to the city is going to be decreased. In many cases, if you protested this year, you got a lower value. So even on top of that, so the reason is because we knew we had fees that we needed to increase in order to be able to stay sustainable. The reason we tried to lower the tax rate, at least some, was to try to offset some of those fees cost. That was the intent. So it was done purposely.
Yes, I know.
So we weren't, it's not like, hooray, we know it's going to be an overall impact to folks, and that's why we try to lower the tax rate.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I think we had a question in the back.
Is that okay?
Man in the blue.
Question in the blue.
I was kind of piggybacking on what you just said. I was going to ask with the incorporation of the increasing businesses that are coming into the area that are increasing population, are they being taxed as well to help pay for a lot of the city revenue and the EMS and public safety?
Well, if they own property, they're paying the property tax. But on new development, developers, as when that development comes in, they have to pay, for instance, impact fees for transportation impact fees for roads. They also have to pay all the development fees associated with those things.
Nice.
And so there are fees associated with that are part of the general fund, but that comes in through a separate, one of the different line items that said other revenues.
I'm asking that question because you put the onus on the resident, and I was wondering how business came into play.
Oh, well, residents did not get businesses got reappraised.
Okay.
It was only residences, single family residents with the homestead exemption that did not get reappraised.
How do you decide who gets what construction done in the area?
So each department, so road construction specifically is Transportation Public Works. So every so often we go through and actually do an analysis of the streets and what condition they're in. And
North Tarrant and Basswood, because those are the two busiest highways in the morning and in the evening, because you've got everybody going west, and they need some love, major love.
And so the answer is there's basically across the city a listing of by priority for streets. And as the funds are available,
How can we move North Tarrant and Basswood?
I think, yes. So part of that is finding out what the questions are, what the issues are, and then having staff go through and working with the council member. Yes. If you have I would recommend that you get the Fort Worth app. There's an app that you can do, and you can take a picture, and it'll tell you exactly where it is, and it goes straight to the service.
You're driving. You're not supposed to be using your phone while you're driving, and that's what's so frustrating. People say, well, take picture of the homeless. You're driving. You're not supposed to be on your phone, right, Chief?
So
He's behind the pole.
totally get it. I mean, I think the intent is, I mean, you know the roads just like I do, the ones that we travel often. You see it whenever you get to a safe location, jump on the app. Hey, at Tarrant Beach, there's a giant pothole. It's not going to be a complete rehaul fix. It's going to be a fix that'll keep it safe. That's the goal. And so if you do see road crews out, you know, it's every 6 months, every 8 months, like, oh, we keep throwing money at the same thing. Well, I found out they're trying to make it safe. And then whenever the time comes for a full reconstruction, that's when they're going to do it. So like North Tarrant from 35, hang on one second, from 35 to Riverside, that one stretch was $1 million, which is almost to the level of a bond, which the last thing we want is something for any of our major street repairs to have to go to a bond. That's where we, right. Well, they completely like pulled everything out and fixed the entire thing. So that was a much different project. But again, going back to the $1 million per lane mile, we don't want to see a lot of our streets on the bonds because that means it's going to be years out. That's why our pay-go is so important. So as we have issues. So our next major street repair is actually going to be, it's a toss-up between North Tarrant and Basswood. And so we might actually put out a little questionnaire like, which one would you rather see? But so we certainly have needs. And of course, as District 4, I'm going to advocate as all day long for District 4. But now whenever we do go to other areas and we see like the actual like analysis of the roads, it's like, holy crap, these are like, I don't want to like shoot ourselves in the foot, but in many cases we have it a lot better than other parts of the city. And whenever, you know, all the taxes are going in the same pot, like, you know, of course I'm going to continue to advocate for District 4. You're never going to find me say, hey, skip Basswood and let's go down to Michael Crane's, just like you're not going to see Michael Crane say, hey, skip this one and go up to Basswood. But I will continuously raise those issues with them and say, hey, can you come take another look? And where we found success is where it's like, all right, that's planned for 2027 or late 2026. It's like, hey, can we take another look at it? Because I think maybe it needs to be sooner. It's going to, if you fix it now, it'll save money in the long term. Then they can come out and do it. And so that's where raising the issues to us, it does help.
Okay, so that section over here in front of the hospital on North Tarrant. Okay, my pet peeve, we are paying these construction people to go in there the first time and fix the problem. And then 6 months down the road, we have an issue. Do we not, hold on, do we not go back after that person saying, hey, you did a crappy job, fix the problem?
Yes, if they fail to do something properly, then yeah, they're responsible for it. However, you see somebody back out 6 months later, whenever you see a lot of the smaller street repairs, it's not, hey, this is going to be a long-term 20-year fix. Some of those fixes, it's like, hey, this is a 3, 6, 9, 12-month fix until the capital improvement plan, then it's scheduled time for that to be completely repaired. So, but now if they fail to fix it properly, absolutely, we're going to hold them accountable and say, you're going to come back out, you're going to fix it on your dime, not taxpayers. Yep. 1 second, Bill. 'Cause I know he's been waiting.
Yeah, really quickly. I live in District 11, by the way. So but I come to City Council, and Councilman Lauersdorf does advocate for his residents that are here. I just want to make sure that I also understand. Looking at District 4, this is just a comment. You don't need to answer to it, but District 4, the median age. So if we lined up everyone in District 4, all 93,710 of them, the median age is 36 years old. 48% of District 4 residents are non-white residents. And so I just want to also make sure, how do we hear those voices when we have these meetings? Number two, the city Fort Worth population is, we just got to 11. And in 2025 fiscal year's budget, we didn't break the top 25 budgets for cities. So my real question is, how do you guys think we're able to build a world-class city while being so much lower than the other large cities across the country, and creating all the things that we are asking for, like senior citizen centers, roads to be fixed? It seems a disconnect between we're the 11th largest city, but we don't even crack the top 25 city budgets.
Yeah, and I'm sure we can pull that information and get that out. And quite frankly, I don't want to be in Dallas. I don't want to be in Austin. I don't want to be in a lot of these other large cities. And so whatever's going on there, I don't care what their budget is. I don't want to be them, quite frankly. So, yeah, don't Dallas my Fort Worth. Don't Austin my Fort Worth. So, yeah. And a lot of people don't, and we're only 49% developed, so it's only going to continue to grow, and a lot of that comes down to private property rights, and again, making sure that it's responsible growth and bring in the right businesses to help us tilt that residential versus commercial tax base. So bringing in the right businesses with the right jobs. So there's a lot to it. And so, yeah. Mr. Bergen, I know you had a question. So I do want to point that out for 1 second, because talking about other cities, if they do it, great. If not, they should be. But you are in the 11th largest city, right? We all know that. But you have the city manager. You have all 4 of our assistant city managers also sitting in the back. You have our chief of police here as well. And then you have our NPOs here. And then you have all your director heads. I mean, you have a lot of wealth of knowledge in this room. In other cities, it would be just as easy. And quite frankly, Fort Worth could do the same. They could say, hey, staff member, go. And then that staff member says, hey, staff member, you go. I'm in the Marine Corps. We know how it works. It rolls downhill. Next thing you know, you're showing up to that working party that you never wanted to do because somebody said, hey, you go do it. But no, he could be at home getting ready to watch some college football. Assistant City Manager Valerie Washington could be at home about to watch some football. But they all showed up because they care and they're listening. And so whenever we go back and whenever I say, see, I told you this is what they said they wanted, it helps.
Come on a Friday afternoon or during the week and enjoy our traffic.
So we're going to be doing a District 4 tour, so we will be showing them all about it. So, oh.
I just wanted to say something about the roads that they're getting temporarily fixed. If you notice, when there's a new patch put down, it's not level. It's actually like this, so that we can level it out before it decides to sink again. Go ahead and look around. Exactly. Go ahead and look. Check it out when you're driving around.
Hi, I'm Lane Zarati. I'm the Assistant Director for Street and Stormwater Operations. So it's my guys that are going out there and doing those repairs. Couple things. We intentionally leave it a little above the surrounding street surface because we know it's going to compact and come in, so we want it to finish level. And we are doing a permanent pothole repair, which actually most cities do temporary asphalt repairs. But all of our repairs are permanent pothole repairs, meaning that we actually excavate into a square, put down tack. We're not just throwing asphalt in it and compacting it, right? And so we're very, very proud of our pothole program. We actually have a service level agreement to replace every pothole reported within 48 hours. Most of the time we do it within 24. We do 24,000 pothole repairs a year. And so the thing is, we just need to know where they are. A lot of people also complain about potholes with the impression that everything is a pothole, when a lot of things are actually base repairs, which have to be done differently with a different crew. And those have to get put into place and may take longer than 48 hours. And so we generally say for a pothole, if it is about the size of the top of your washer or your dryer, that's a pothole. If it's anything bigger than that, it's going to take us more time to do. Well, it's a base failure or some kind of rutting. But if you want, we can talk more about it afterwards. We do know that water coming in is the devil when it comes to streets. So everything is preventing water from getting down to the bottom of the road. So when there are distresses to the pavement that we try to repair, if water does continue to make its way in, that repair location will eventually need to be repaired again or become larger. And so we do everything we can to do it right and prevent water from getting in the first time. Is it 100%? No, but we'll go back out and we'll do it again. Okay?
Thank you.
Well, I just want to compliment you. I think it's great that we're a number 11 city in the country, but our budget is not within the top 11. So thank you for using our money wisely.
Thank you.
Couple of questions. Debt service is $337 million a year. We got a bond coming in for $840. What's the total debt right now if we're paying $337 million a year?
That's the total debt right now, $337 million.
Okay.
Not sure what will it be after the bond?
It said debt service, so I assume it's an ongoing thing.
That's an annual. That's the cost for this coming year. If we don't have a bond election, for instance, say it all fails, citizens decide not to pass the bond, the following year it'll be less because every year we're retiring debt. The debt's typically 20 years. Most debt is 20-year debt. So every year that we pay, we're retiring some of that debt. So it would go down. The issue with debt service, it's like buying a house. How many of y'all buy your house with cash? Lucky you, if you're able to do it. But we're a fast-growing city. We have tons of infrastructure requirements, and infrastructure is not cheap. So the debt issuance and all the requests for community centers, the requests for, as we continue to grow and we need a new fire station, we need a new police command center, we need bridges over roads that the bridge is failing or will fail in the next 5 or 10 years. It would have to come out of PAYGO. So PAYGO would have to be $300 million a year to make a difference in that. And the tax rate associated with that, nobody would want to see that. So the reason we issue debt and we try to use it for non-operating types of things, basically long-term capital that has a life expectancy that's longer than the 20 years, just like your house, so that we can make the improvements that are required. That's why we put it in a bond program, to let the citizens decide, do you want to pass this or not? If it doesn't get passed, it doesn't get done, and the tax rate on the debt service side ultimately will go down, because under state law, we can't have a debt service rate for our taxes that is not paying. Those dollars can only be used to pay debt service. So if you end up retiring debt service because it went down, then our tax rate on the debt side has to go down. So hopefully I answered your question.
All right. Another question. You said this tax rate will lower property taxes about $20 a year?
For the average that's there. Depends on the value of your home.
Okay. Fee increases. I agree with everything that you want to do so far as fee increases, but how much is that going to impact? Is it going to be more than $20 a year, right?
It was, I think the estimate for the same type of house was $36. So it's a net increase of $16.
Okay, I thought it was more than that. And third thing, 2.2 million pay study implementation.
Yes.
Don't you guys have an HR department that does that kind of stuff?
Yes.
2.2 million.
That's not for the study. That's for implementation. So in order to have all the staff here, to have great staff, we compete with the region to hire folks, right? And so we have several positions in the city that we can't fill. And one of the reasons is because market-wise for their pay is folks are going to other cities. I'll give you an example. Engineers. We hire engineers maybe out of college. They learn the systems, and then they get taken by the private sector, or they go to a smaller city who only have 1 or 2 engineers there, and they pay them 20, 30% more. So the study is going to tell us where all the positions are that we need to adjust the market range, and that implementation is to have dollars to be able to change the market range so people are going to get some increases in their salaries, and or we are able to now offer a higher salary to be able to hire some folks in those key positions.
We just would like to say thank you to, for all of you for being here. Thank you for aligning everything for us publicly, but also we would like to give a shout out and advocate for our Fort Worth Police Department, who've done a wonderful job in this area and also continue to serve us with everything that's changing, the demographics, the social climate. But also, if we could advocate giving them more money, we would certainly do that wholeheartedly. They've kept our community safe. They've kept our house safe. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll agree. We have a great police department. I don't know if you just saw an article that came out. We had nothing to do with it. Fort Worth was listed as the 3rd safest city in the country. And going back to the question about the size of the city and how much we spend, so the number 2 safest city in the country is San Jose. They have less police per capita than we do. We have less police per capita than most other cities across the country. Yet those 2 cities are in the top 3. And I think it has to do with strategy, with tactics, and with hiring quality people. And so that's what you got here. And that's where it comes from. So yes, ma'am.
Statistics and everything, if they don't like prosecute certain crimes and everything, that makes their statistics go down because they don't. So just to keep that in mind, like San Jose and stuff, they may not, the shoplifting or whatever, they may not.
Well, and San Jose is a more wealthy community too.
I
It's in the
know.
middle of Silicon Valley, so that's part of the equation. Yeah, I'm not saying it's apples to apples. I'm just saying these broad statistics of how much you spend don't necessarily always translate to the actual results. It's the people that are doing it, in my opinion.
It was mentioned that the city was going to be working with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Black Chamber of Commerce, and so forth. Okay, so are they going to get preference over, like, because there's no Asian commerce, there's no Native American commerce. So the reason why I'm asking is this, because there was another thing she brought up up front, she mentioned about nonprofits. We have businesses that have contracts with the city with their CEOs on the boards of these nonprofits that receive millions of dollars. And so it's a conflict of interest when there's a nonprofit where the CEO gets tens of millions of dollars contracts with the city, also is working with a nonprofit that receives money for the, I'll mention one, what is it? It's not the tourist one, but it's the other one, Steer Fort Worth. You have a board member who actually has a corporation that receives tens of millions of dollars from the city of Fort Worth. So, and it's a political person.
The city does not fund Steer Fort Worth. There's
Does
no
not?
money going to Steer Fort Worth, no.
Really?
Really. Steer, he mentioned a nonprofit called Steer Fort Worth. The city does not provide Steer Fort Worth any money.
It does not?
No.
Really? Okay. Well, so forth. Maybe not with that one, but there's other things. Like when I was with the, like I said, with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, will they be getting preference as opposed to other groups or anything like that? So is it, if you're a part of that Chamber of Commerce, would that be like something that the city is looking forward to, like as a plus, or is it going to be even?
I think the
across
program,
board?
so we are implementing a small business development program. So the idea behind that program is to help small businesses in Fort Worth grow, not based on race or ethnicity or gender, just all small businesses. We're using the SBA numbers to determine what a small business is. And the idea is that we want to have a preference so that our taxpayer dollars, as much as possible, can help small businesses in Fort Worth to grow small businesses. There's always this comment that we provide, big businesses come in and we provide incentives. Well, how can we help small businesses grow in Fort Worth? And so what we're utilizing the chambers, and it's the 3 chambers that are currently in the city, the Fort Worth Chamber, which is, a lot of people call it the Downtown Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, and the African American, the Black Chamber. We're contracting with them to help with that program in providing training to small businesses, opportunities, as well as providing, we're going to be developing some programs where we help small businesses get to a level where they could actually have contract on city water lines, sewer lines. The idea is as we get more of these businesses competitive, we hopefully will have better pricing on our projects. For example, Chris, how many large sewer contractors that we have that bid every time? 2? Yeah, there's a handful of businesses. So if they're so busy in the Metroplex, the pricing's not good because there's enough business for those few. And so the idea is if we can grow some Fort Worth firms, that ultimately there's more competition in the marketplace. Ultimately, we have better pricing on our projects. I think somebody mentioned that the CPI was 1.9%. The cost of construction of infrastructure has gone up 47% since COVID ended. And so there overall might be 1.9%, but in certain industries, a lot of them that have big impact on the city, the inflation has been much larger than that. So.
Speaking of that, what are we doing about the AI? I just read that there's a big warehouse being built with computers. I don't know where in the area they are building because I didn't get an address, but it sounded like it was, we have tons of warehouses over here. So what are we doing about all these companies that are coming in that want to house computers, and we've got to keep them cool and so forth? So what are we doing about that?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I mean, they're data centers, you mean?
Yes.
So there's data centers all over the state coming in because of the growth, right? We have about 5 currently under construction in Fort Worth alone, and there's probably 100 in the Metroplex. And it's all tied to, everybody's holding a phone. It's all tied to all of us and the data that's being utilized, and then AI requires a lot more storage, and everybody's using ChatGPT, and so it's a market thing. I don't know that we can do anything about it other than make sure that we collect the taxes on them because they're really expensive.
I'd like to bring up.
They're bringing great jobs too. So we got time for one more, and then we do got to wrap it up because again, as thankful as we are for the facilities here, we do got to let this get back. So we got one more.
To support infrastructure, we're going to need like zoning for industrial zoning, and so that's a big conflict with nobody wants it in their backyard with the industrial zoning. So if we want concrete to build the houses or things like that, materials, we're going to have zoning for industrial, use industrial zoning for the city. So it's going to be, well, whose backyard is going to be put in?
Yeah, Yeah, and great question, great, and we'll cover that maybe in a town hall or in the comp plan meetings that we discussed. But since this was the budget, we'll just stick that the budget.
That's a comprehensive plan question.
So come out to our comp plan meetings, the plannings, our district yours, by all means, come on out and be part of that process.
Again, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it.